Something just happened in Washington that most people completely missed, but it could end up mattering more than any tech story this year. The president sat down in the Oval Office and signed something that told the entire country to start building a computer that does not fully exist yet. Not a faster laptop, not a bigger AI model, a quantum computer.
Quantum technologies represents the next generation of innovation across computing, sensing, and networking with enormous significance for our country's economic growth, scientific research, and cyber security. It's really a big deal.
And not just any quantum computer, but the first one in the world with enough power to do real science. The goal he set is the part that makes people stop and stare, because it comes with a deadline that experts are calling either genius or completely impossible. This is the moment a brand new technology race has officially started. Now, to understand why this could be the next great race after AI, there are 9 things you need to see, and they only make sense in that order. So we're going to walk through all 9 one at a time and stay till the end, because the last one questions everything else is really pointing at. And let's start at the top. So a few days ago, President Trump signed 2 executive orders at the White House, surrounded by leaders from some of the biggest names in the quantum world. And that setting was a signal in itself. This wasn't a quiet policy memo, this was a public show of force. The first order is called ushering in the next phase of quantum innovation. And in plain terms, it launches a national effort to build a quantum computer that can perform scientific calculations, plus develop quantum sensors and quantum networks, all within the next 5 years. The second order is called securing the nation against advanced cryptographic attacks. And it is about defense, telling federal agencies to switch to a new kind of code protection with deadlines around 2030 and 2031. So one order says you build the future, and the other order basically says you need to protect us from it. And that combination is strange until you understand what a quantum computer really is, which is a thing that is pretty hard to explain. So that leads me on to point number 2. You see, a normal computer, the one in your pocket, thinks in ones and zeros. And every single thing it does comes down from flipping tiny switches between on and off. And that system is incredibly reliable, and it's why computers got so powerful over the last 50 years. But there are certain problems with so many possible answers that even the fastest supercomputers on Earth would take longer than the age of the universe to solve them. A quantum computer works in completely different ways. Instead of switches that are on and off, it uses pieces of information that can hold many possibilities all at once. And that means for certain very specific problems, it can explore a huge number of answers at the same time instead of checking them one by one. It's not better at everything, it will not load a web page faster, but for a small set of extremely hard problems, it could do in minutes what would otherwise take thousands of years. This is the dream. The catch is that these machines are unbelievably fragile, they make constant errors, and so far, nobody has built one stable enough to solve a genuinely useful problem, which is why the exact wording of what the government asked to do matters so much, and that wording is number 3. The wording that they asked for is fault-tolerant, and this is the one phrase buried inside the announcement that experts keep circling back to. The government isn't just asking for a quantum computer, it's asking for a fault-tolerant, scientifically relevant quantum computer. So fault-tolerant essentially just means the machine can catch and fix its own errors as it runs, instead of falling apart the moment something goes wrong. And that is the single hardest problem in the entire field. And solving that is what separates a science experiment from a real working computer. Scientifically relevant means it has to solve real problems that actually matter to researchers, not tiny toy puzzles designed to look impressive in a demo. Now, demanding both of those by 2028 is a massive ask. A lot of scientists thought we were a decade or more away from this, and the government just said that it wants, it roughly in 2 years. So the obvious question becomes, who on earth is actually supposed to build this? And that is number 4. And this is where we figure out who's building this. You see, the plan gets somewhat concrete. The Department of Energy stepped forward with its own program called the Quantum Genesis Initiative. And its job is to actually create and deploy that first fault-tolerant and scientifically relevant quantum computer by 2028. The machine is meant to be delivered to a Department of Energy facility where researchers can put it to work. Now, what makes this different from the past efforts is the structure. The order pulls together the Department of Energy and the Commerce Department and the intelligence community, and it essentially tells them to work together as one team alongside private companies and universities. It is a whole of government push, and it did not appear out of nowhere. The foundation was laid back in 2018, and just before these orders, the government had already announced $2 billion in grants to 9 quantum computing companies, with a large chunk going to IBM, plus plans to take direct ownership stakes in some of them. So the government now is a hands-on player in the industry, not a cheerleader on the sidelines. But remember, there was a second order, one about the defense, and that's the reason this one genuinely exists is unsettling, which brings us to point number 5. The that sounds boring but is actually the scariest part of the entire story. A powerful quantum computer is not only a gift, it's actually a weapon. Almost everything you do online is protected by encryption. Your bank login, your messages, your medical records, government secrets, military communications, the entire financial system. That protection works because today's computers would need an impossibly long time to crack it. But a powerful quantum computer could break a lot of that encryption really fast, which means that the same machine that unlocks new science could also unlock everyone's private data. And if you think that threat is years away, so it doesn't really matter, there's a twist that makes the problem right now. And that twist is number 6. You see, security experts have a name for the sneakiest version of this threat. It's called harvest now, decrypt later. And that idea is something that the enemy doesn't need a quantum computer today. They can simply steal and store huge amounts of encrypted data right now. And they can sit on that, and then they can crack it open the moment a quantum machine becomes available years from now, which means sensitive data being stolen today could be living on borrowed time. And that's why the second order moves so fast. It tells federal agencies to switch to post-quantum cryptography, a new generation of codes designed to survive a quantum attack. Agencies have to name someone in charge of the switch to move their most sensitive systems over by 2030 and 2031, and even run a pilot program to prove it works by the end of 2027. It also prioritizes protecting critical infrastructure like power grids and water systems because those would do the most damage if cracked. Now, let's strip away the technical language, and the entire story actually comes down to one thing: the race between the United States and China for who controls the next era of technology. The government sees quantum as strategically critical for national security, for artificial intelligence, for scientific research, and for economic power, with China named directly as the main rival. See, whoever builds a working quantum computer first gets an enormous advantage, both in what they can discover and what they can break. Falling behind is treated as a threat to the country. For now, reports suggest the United States hold a slight lead over China, but the world is still doing, a lot of work. And the word slight is doing a lot of work there. A slight lead can vanish quickly, and the anxiety is what is driving these headlines. There's also a supply chain angle that mirrors the chip wars, which is the part of the plan being to build up the domestic chip production of the special materials that quantum machines need, so the country is not dependent on the rivals for the technology. And when a story has stakes this big, the money notices instantly, and the money's reaction was loud, which is why this is point number 8. The moment the orders were signed, shares of quantum computing companies jumped. Names like IonQ, Rigetti, D-Wave all surged on a day where the broader market was rough, and quantum stocks were the only ones pumping. The reason is straightforward. When the federal government promises money, attention, and headlines to a, industry, investors read this as a guaranteed wave of demand. Suddenly, these companies are not just science projects, they look like businesses with the most powerful customer on earth standing behind them. But that excitement has come with a warning, because these are all early stage companies. Many are not profitable, and these stocks were whipsawing because nobody knows if the technology can hit the timeline, which leaves the biggest single question hanging over all of it. Can they pull this off by 2028? And that's number 9, which is where the whole story points. The next couple of years are going to be a big test of whether the deadline was bold or just unrealistic. The Department of Energy's Quantum Genesis initiative now has to deliver a working machine to one of its facilities with 2028 as the line in the sand. And the government also has to prove its cryptography pilot works by the end of 2027. And these are real checkpoints that we can watch. The honest truth is that the experts are split. Some believe the combination of government money, private industry, and a hard decline is exactly the kind of pressure that produces breakthroughs. Others think 2028 is far too soon for a fault-tolerant machine, and that deadline is more about ambition and politics than what the science can actually realistically deliver. Both views are reasonable right now, and anyone who tells you they know for certain is guessing. Now, what is not in doubt is the direction. The race is on, the money is moving, and the headlines are now public and specific. So when you put all of these together, you get a clear picture.